New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello, it's me, yes, me, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. And I am a grief coach, a registered nurse, a religious science practitioner, and a licensed soul collage facilitator here with you today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If it's your first time joining us, I am just honored to have you. And I want you to know that if you're in grief and starting your grief recovery, this is the place to be. And if you are a returning guest, I am so honored to have you back. Thank you for joining in. And thank you for helping me keep the conversation alive on grief. And I am here today doing what I feel is my calling, my mission, and that is to help us move the needle on grief, bringing it out of the shadows and right into the middle of our lives, because grief is a vital part of life. So with that knowing, I say just join the conversation, drop a comment in the comment box or question, and just know that that all comments and questions are welcomed. But importantly, what I want you to know is that loss is what we experience and grief is what we feel. And that grief needs to be validated. It needs to be heard. And grief needs to be shared. If we can feel it, we can heal it. Or to be able to heal it, you have to feel it. So I'm just giving you that opportunity to explore loss and grief in a whole new way. In a way that invites it in, that allows us to lean into our discomfort when we have that. And just knowing that grief's superpower is healing. Its ability to heal us, transform us, and change us. So thank you. And I have a super special guest today. But before I bring on my guest, I just want to have a moment of silence to honor the death of Tyree Nichols that was murdered by the Memphis police, and just want to honor his life and to hold his family in the highest light with love as they release their dear, dear Tyrese Nichols. So just a moment of silence. Thank you. I know there's been, if you follow the news, there's been so many murders or mass murders, and just holding the entire country in the highest light with love. It's everyone's affected by deaths caused by a murder, or what we feel was a needless murder, or needless or senseless event. So just holding us all in that special place of being held, and knowing that all of these events are just opportunities for us to unite and come together for comfort, and come together for healing, and to heal the violence in our world. So thank you. Thank you. And as I promised, we have a very special guest today, very special guest. And her name is Angel Sparks. And Angel, oh, I lost my light. Angel is a natural born psychic and known as High Priestess Lady Seraphim in Central Florida with the Eclectic Witches United Coven, which was formed in 2016 as a movement from the greater pagan community known as the Home Circle. Home meaning hearth of Mother Earth, which was established in 1999. Her current ancestral title is Intercessor. As an oracle of the old ways, she offers a unique form of life coaching integrated with Wiccan, Reiki, and the science of mind teachings to navigate the highest good in life. What a combination, huh? Wiccan, Reiki, and science of mind philosophies. And Angel's legacy is known as the legacy of light. All of her collective work has opened a gateway for advanced cognitive alignment on a developmental level that shows the way to unlock your divine potential. And with all of that said, Angel is also a death doula, and who's having her own personal experience with loss and grief. Angel recently lost her mother and her young teenage daughter. So help me welcome Angel to the program today. Just super excited to have you here today. Angel, thank you so much for your yes, yes, yes to the call to be on the show today. And
Absolutely.
oh, thank you. So I will just let you tell us your story, and such a rich history you have. So please.
Oh boy. Well, I've been a death doula for over 20 years. And I don't just deal in death dueling. I've been a birthing doula as well. And so I like to keep it open. Spirit just moves us, you know. But here recently, the loss of my youngest, my 19-year-old, to a head-on collision. So that was pretty intense to go through. And then directly before that, about 3 weeks before that, my mother passed away from natural causes at home. And so it was one death right after the other. But I have a great community. I am linked in with the Science of Mind here in Ocala, and our center is full of wonderful healing options for this type of thing. And I've been blessed to be there for over 15 years now. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't have the support. I think it was a very large hit emotionally. So even for somebody who has the training and the skills, it was very difficult to navigate through the grief and the trauma through the bereavement process. And I'm still in it. So, you know, and that's why I'm here with you today, because this is part of that healing process.
And what's your daughter's name, and what's your mother's name?
My mother was Amelia Elizabeth Tucker.
Oh, and okay.
And my daughter was Amelia Grace Langenfeld.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to call their names. That's how we keep their memories live on with us. As every time we call their name, they're here with us. So thanking both Amelias for being
Thank
here.
you for having us here. I believe that they're still with us,
Yeah.
so I feel that even speaking their presence allows us to keep their legacy moving forward.
Mm. Um, could I ask you, how did you get involved with being a death doula? You said for over 20 years. So how did this come about?
I am Native American
Mm.
in descent, very small portion actually. And my neighbor at the time was a 92-year-old Apache Indian lady. And
Mm.
she was going through that anticipatory grief where she knew she was going to be dying, and she needed somebody that could learn the death rites. She
Mm.
wanted it done a particular way. You had to learn prepping of the body and how to do everything and how to handle everything appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
And I took 2 years of walking with her. She passed at 94.
Wow.
And 2 years, it was like Mr. Miyagi, wash the plates, dust.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, yes,
And it
yes.
taught me a lot. And
Right.
I really learned how to appreciate the native path for how they honor the dead.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother that adopted me that passed, she was Cherokee as well. So I had this just longing for the connection on that level, and being able to honor her like that was just a real blessing. And it opened my path. And then after a few people heard I did that one, then they were like, oh, well, we want help over here with this.
Yes. Angel, so could you enlighten us just a little bit on how Native American tradition and what tribe was, did you say she was Apache or?
She was Apache Indian, yes. But
Yes.
each of the tribes handle things differently, just slightly. I mean, all in all, we kind of all move through the stages of grief very similarly. However, nowadays it's very productive, like it's a production. There's this expected production that's put on, but not when it comes to their belief system and how the body is honored and how it's handled, and the timing has to be, of what the expectancy is for that particular handling process. And they want the body washed and wrapped, and there's just different things that each one of them do for that process for ascension, which we call it ascension. I call it ascension. I say we in my community, but they call it different stuff. And there's a lot of linguistic overlay you'll see between, and being a death doula, you see this with different religious practices and ethnic backgrounds. They all kind of have their own way of honoring that naturally happens. It naturally sort of pulls up and unfolds. But this lady had moved here and was isolated from her tribe and didn't have anybody that was local to know even what was going on. So I just happened to be at the right place at the right time, and Spirit said, here you go.
Right. And had you had any, prior to that, had you had any involvement with actual death and dying? Had you had any involvement?
At that point, I had already lost 3 children.
Oh my God.
I'm an A negative blood type, and I was unaware of the dangers and issues, and I had already miscarried a number. And so she had also helped me through that time period. So I think it was a mutual exchange of energy. She saw a way of helping me through that time period. And so I was able to do that back. But I have a very large Christian background that I was raised in. My dad was a minister as well. And so I'm very, very biblically founded. My philosophies on things are much broader now. And I prefer following the science of mind with Ernest Holmes, keeping it open at the top and just allowing for spirit to express fully. But for the first 17, 18 years of my life, we were very much active in the church and
steeped in that, steeped and marinated in the religious or in the Christian juices. I'll put it that way. I was going to say, it sounded when you were talking about meeting your Apache teacher, you had already lost. You had already had 3 losses,
Yes.
3 children. And
Yes.
it reminds me of the saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And it
Yes.
sounds like she was your teacher, birthing you into.
And it's so
what was
funny because that's
becoming.
how we sort of breathe into it. So like I needed and she showed up and then she provided for me and then others showed up after her that I was able to gift forward as well. Now I've done 16 crossing overs
Wow.
that I've been privy to actually working with the families, preparing for things and working counsel. Many more outside of that, that's been family and friends of such, but all in all, really closely as a death doula, working hand in hand with the families and the process. 16.
Right. Yes, we have a visitor there. He wants to be a part of the conversation.
Just letting me know that there's somebody outside.
But I was just wanted to back up a little bit, a couple of things that you said. You referred to the families that you worked in. You said you had 16 crossing overs. Is that the term that you use?
I like to call it ascensions because, you know, our essence moves forward. You know, there's just a separation that happens with the physical, but we go back to that great source. So I've been there at the end for 16.
Yeah. And there's, and I know from experience,
and that's not counting my mother or my daughter. Okay. That's actually, you know, people that I've helped and worked with outside of this. Dealing with that grief has been completely different. Walking with somebody and offering these type of services, you know, we say we're doing this and we have this title and we're helping, but then when you're actually doing it yourself, it is very much different because your mind says, you know, that this is the process, but your emotions and your process of unfollowing how it needs to flow forward, you just trip and stumble all over yourself.
I say it's different. I can sit with someone who's actively dying and really be totally present for them.
Yes.
But when it's someone I love, my heart is so engaged that the brain kind of just steps away, and so I do understand that when you say that the difference between your daughter and your mother, it is emotionally another whole level that you are working with this from and seeing this from and experiencing it from.
Yeah, I would say I'm just now getting to the point where I am reforming what grief could be for me. You know, and trying to put that back together into a reconstructive form that works from this new platform. Because honestly, you don't really, people say you go straight through grief, but you don't. They say, wait till you get to the other side, but you don't.
Yes.
There's no other side. So that's kind of like false imprisonment almost and it's because they don't know what to say.
And yes, I'm going to do a whole program on that, on what to say. I don't want to say what not to say, because then people, I don't know, somehow our mind gets fixated on, she said don't. But if I say this, it's an easier frame of reference to come from, to remember, oh, she said to say this. And I don't know if in your experience, but I do believe that this can be just as effective. When you say to someone, I don't know what to say. My heart is breaking for you. I don't know what to say. And, you know, versus, oh, well, we won't say what not to say, but I'm just saying it's okay to say that. And also, Silver, Angel, we had this conversation before the show. I just see Angel as silver. And, it's such a, anyway, you can interrupt me and tell the story about silver. I guess I want to call you Silver.
It's so funny because one of my nicknames is 7. And so I'm also associated with a number. I think this happens as you kind of gain your titles in life. You become a doctor and you have this MD behind it, or you have an RN for a nurse. I just have a number and a medal, and
A number and a medal, and the medal
yeah,
is
it's funny, but I think it's just because Quicksilver is my silver. It's what I kind of channel in with. I am an alchemist, and so my practices do take me down that road on the occasion, and I do believe that transcending is a form of our spiritual alchemy that takes us to the next level, and we are constantly developing. From the moment of birth, we're developing.
Yes.
And so this is just another phase in development.
Mm-hmm.
And once we learn the complexity of grief and the depth of grief that we're experiencing, then we can actually assertively apply the practices to raise us to the next level of actual performance level.
Yes.
Because while you're going through bereavement and grief, your performance level really takes a huge hit. You're scatterbrained, and there's just so much going on. It's hard to stay focused, and I don't think that many people understand the magnitude of how that affects you mentally when you don't take that right steps and that accountability of things for yourself to move through the process.
And I just wanted to add also that science is even proving that whole period of grief where we're numb and confused and just really out of sorts, for lack of a better word, because the proof is that 10% of our brain is being used to integrate this new separation, this permanent separation on a physical level. Our brain is trying to process that. And there is so much talk around what this 5 stages of grief, and there's no stage. There's a going back and forth. It weaves in. Maybe today you are definitely feeling like some sense of normalcy has returned, and tomorrow you can be thrust right back, or not even tomorrow, in the next hour, thrust right back into the initial throes of grief. So it's a weaving. It's like a basket weave is the way
It's so funny that you mentioned the 5 stages, because, I, in my own depth of grief, I have found 10 to be complete and whole. And it's very difficult to find all 10 of them. And I had to even put them together myself. But the main 5 for everybody who's watching is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
Okay. And what's angels?
The 10 that I've experienced. Because, God doesn't do little things for me. He gave me all of them. And so I have shock and denial. Those are 1. Disorder that follows. And this also, I'll come back and tell you like the different forms of grief I feel like these apply to. Shock and denial, disorder, anger, guilt and bargaining, distress, depression, loneliness, withdrawal, reconstitution, and acceptance. And so for me, I had to experience all of those. And I'm still in that reconstitution phase right now. I'm still trying to see what that fully looks like for me, especially as a death doula now. What do I want to do with this information and how? And that's what led me to you. But the difference, I think, between my 10 and the 5 that everybody knows is the types of grief, which I don't feel like are really highlighted enough. But we have complicated grief, which is like from accidents and from You know,
Yes.
that type of intensity, unexpected or multiple or violent grief. Okay.
Mhm.
And then we have disenfranchised grief, which is like when I lost the children, the babies. There's
Yeah.
not really a funeral for it, or you
It's
lost a pet and there's not really like a service you have for your pet. So there's this disenfranchised grief. And then there's anticipatory grief. We
Mhm.
know that mom is sick and mom is going to die, and we have that time to have that anticipatory grief. And I think that if you have different, you know what grief you're dealing with, then you would
Mhm.
know the steps to take to try and work through that.
And also in your case, Angel, you having collective grief. I mean,
It was.
collective, like
Yes.
one after the other, like a really powerful punch to the gut. And before you can
And
stand
it
up and
was
breathe,
huge
another one.
because she was known, my daughter was known as the littlest guru.
Mm,
She took Reiki mastership at 9.
wow. Wow.
And
I
she
can't,
worked with animal handling and healing with animals. And so she had a very large following of people that were her friends and that supported her on this journey. And she really lived a very full life for a little one.
like it. Yes, at 9 years
So,
old, a Reiki master.
yeah.
That's got to be some record breaking. Uh,
I had to show
a
proof of it
phenomenon.
so that they would know that I wasn't fibbing. I'm like, here's
Right.
the
Oh,
stuff.
wow. Well, so
Oh,
staying with those stages of grief, can you say even with your 10 that there is no linear way through this?
no, there's not. It's very much fluid. It's a heartbeat. And listen, it can be a smell that can trigger you. It could
Mhm.
be the sound of a bird or the feel of rain on your face. It could be the smallest thing. It
Yes.
could be you take out the last sweater you wore when you were around them, or you remember a moment when you have that type of exchange. It will
Mhm.
also bring it to surface again, and you'll find yourself back in the more I really want to bargain with God again.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you about anger, but before I say that, I want to say to people that whatever your experience is yours. Whatever your experience is yours. And I would like to remove the idea that, oh, I didn't go through that. Oh, well, must be something wrong. Or, oh, she doesn't know what's going on. So just wanted you to speak to your own. Did you experience anger? Was that something
Oh, yes, I
that
was angry because listen, the guy that hit her was intoxicated. So
oh,
Mothers Against Drunk Driving,
yes,
and
yes.
I mean, it really does. It makes you put your shield up, and it makes you really think about, why wasn't there somebody there to stop what was going on? You know, you question everything at that point,
Right.
and you become very defensive because something was taken from you. And that's our normal reaction to that,
Not
you know?
something you loved, someone
Right.
that
A
you
piece
loved,
of you was
created.
taken. And
Yes.
so it is a very, very, and then of course there's the anger with the source itself. And so
Mhm.
I like to say now, I hope source is happy, because I knew by having her here for the time I did that he had to mourn the entire time she was gone. And now
Mm.
he's back. Now he's got
Well,
her back.
let me
And
just sit with that for a minute. Let me breathe that one in. That's
think
a
about it. While we're living, we're away from source. Think about the mourning that source has to feel, that type of separation, while we experience this self-opening of life expressing independent. And we don't think about that part.
and I'm sure that that could bring comfort to someone. Not comfort, but a different perspective on your
Yes.
a different perspective, because we all have different beliefs, but that could really um, be an eye opener. Or I love that word, game changer. Like, maybe this does change how I feel around grief. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to stop and pause with that. But you can speak more. Was there any in your own personal experience, any stage of grief That was unexpected. That was unexpected.
When I was in the grief of losing my mother, and then I got the call stating that I lost my daughter, I was sidelined.
Mm.
I was wiped out, and I was already in the grief moment of losing my mom. And so having to deal with both of them on top of each other, and multiple other family and friends had passed through this time period.
Mm-hmm.
Actually today is a 1-year anniversary of Emily's friend Travis, who also passed with a car accident. And so this particular thing was very fresh. Like, we had just lost Travis, and then we lost my mom, and then now we lost Emily. And so the multi-layer of the loss was intense. And then my poor best friend lost her dog in it too. And this dog was with us forever. And this little fur baby was with us forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was that as well. And, and different weights to loss. A lot of people want to say, oh, well, you lost your daughter. I did lose my daughter, but I also lost my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even a weight system. It's just empty loss.
Mm-hmm.
It's just empty loss. And everybody lost them. It wasn't just me. Everybody in this vortex that we share lost the experience of that. And so it was a huge net that took a big hit.
Yes.
Back to back. And it was hard to process where everybody else was on their levels of grief, what stages they were going in and out of, and being able to incorporate forgiveness as being the practice up front, and just coming from that place of forgiveness, even if I was angry. Being in that forgiveness mode was important.
I was just going to ask you, and forgiveness to what and around what?
Mainly awareness of self, forgiveness for not showing up, or for not appearing in a way that somebody needed, or maybe not hearing correctly, or focusing in, and how their reactions are, because everybody reacts differently. And so they need to be able to react and be able to receive that type of engagement without feeling penalized or like it's not a safe space.
We just had a thank you. I'm going to come back to that because I wanted to ask you around things that brought you comfort. But I see we had a comment. Joe, can you put that back up? Okay. So this discussion really has me thinking about my own stages of grief, which are very different than the standard 5 or Angel's 10. Grief is such a deeply personal experience. And this is by EMC 3005. Are you familiar with EMC?
I am not.
Yeah, well,
I am in total agreement with them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I thank her for putting that in, that everybody's grief is very personal and very different, or can be very different. And with that said, going through these 5 or 10 stages, Angel, was there anything that brought you comfort? Is there anything that you would say was the most effective or the least effective? We could do it that way.
I would say the most effective skill set.
Our guest name, Erin. Thank you, Erin.
Yes, thank you. I do definitely agree with her. Everybody's phases are different. Everybody's stages that they go through will move and be fluid. That's why I said, and as you have experiences, that will change as well. I'm saying now, being over 6 months out, I definitely have a different perspective of where I am on grief and how to move to the next level. But that doesn't mean that tomorrow I won't engage, on something because we still have to do her memorial service. We're going to do it on the 1-year anniversary. And so anyways,
Yeah, well,
back
I
up to
know.
where
I applaud your courage for being here. It's been only 6 months. I mean, that's for some. I just applaud you. I just applaud you, your courageousness, and for your desire to want to share, and knowing that so many others out there can benefit from this
I think
conversation.
a lot of people don't really know what to do when they're faced with this. A lot of us, especially the younger ones that are not prepared in any way for a traumatic event to occur, we're not prepared to develop into the next self and embrace what that could look like. We are so engulfed in the moment and the gift of this life that we're living right now that we don't have that parallel look and say, well, I could do this.
Um,
And
I was going to say, Angel, that we're not taught how to grieve.
no,
So what do you expect? Like, well, yes, you didn't know we're not taught how to grieve, nor are we taught how to lose. What's that expression? Don't be a sore loser. Oh, it doesn't matter.
right.
We're not even allowed to say, oh, that must be really disappointing that you lost that game. Oh, that must really be disappointing you didn't get that job. We're just not taught how to grieve. We're not taught to accept loss into our lives. Loss is quote unquote a failure. Yes, go
And
ahead.
I kind of feel like it's almost taboo to say that you can find joy in grief as well. You can find the joy in your memories and in the journey work. You can re-found yourself in grief through the joy of life and understanding the connectivity through it all. And so I just feel it's very important for everybody to express it as it appears to them. We
Mm-hmm.
can't teach anybody how to do this. All we can do is we can be there with you. We
Mm-hmm.
can walk with you, and when you trip, we can help you back up.
Oh, I love that. I love that we can help you back up.
That's why it takes a tribe.
And that's what I love in the Jewish. I was just talking to someone yesterday at a gathering and talking about the Jewish tradition, and she was saying she's not Jewish, but her husband is Jewish, and his mother died, and so I guess he was preparing her for when they sit Shiva. He was preparing her. He said, now every night, now people are going to come over for 9 nights. I guess in his, he said for 9 nights, now people are going to be coming over and being here with us and food and those kinds of things. And so she thought in her mind, she said, yeah, 9 nights. She said, we'll see. She said, maybe 1 or 2 nights, maybe a third night. After that, it'll trickle off. She said, this went on for 9 nights. She said she did not even, before this experience, she had never even thought about how healing it is to come together collectively. She said they would bring people, maybe they didn't even know, the people didn't even have to know you. They just knew, oh, this family is, sitting Shiva, we're going to go and be with them. How healing that was. Or maybe healing isn't the right word, maybe the beginning of healing, but how much comfort it brought to have the people come and collectively providing support. So I honor you and what you are going through at this time, and to be here today is really, in my mind, a miracle, and I thank you for that. I did want to ask you, we talked a little bit about, I didn't make too many notes because I wanted us to be spontaneous, but I love when you talked about how some people are stuck in a moment of time. I know that, we lose our loved ones in different ways. And some people, it's more of a traumatic experience and can really lead to some post-traumatic stress disorder. And so I wanted to ask you to speak to that, because you had an eloquent way of putting it when we spoke about being stuck in time.
I do remember speaking to you about that. Because of the intensity and the level of involvement that you have in the loss, getting stuck in a moment of time means that you just really can't move past it. You really are having a hard time letting go. You can't believe the moment took place or that things led up to that. Like I said, I went through the moment of why didn't anybody stop this man? You know, at his age and with that type of environment, I would think that somebody would have seen something. Why wouldn't they stay? And so you go through this and you can stay in that ifs, buts, and why section for as long as you need. That's how it works. And you stay there and you mow that over and you say, okay, well, X, Y, and Z, you know, and if you can't make the jump to A, B, and C on it, you get stuck in rehashing that over and over and over and reliving it. And that creates the trauma all over again.
Right.
So really being the biggest thing that helped me, the biggest practice that helped me was positive affirmations. And even when you don't believe it, the fake it till you make it, because you know gravity still works. I can go out there and say the ball is not going to drop, and I could throw it and it's going to drop. It doesn't matter how many times I say it. But the truth of the matter is, if I hang that ball on a string and I go out there and now I have a whole different game.
Yes. So your affirmation changed your game. And I love the expression. Well, I think you said fake it until you make it. Fake it until you become it. Fake it until you become what it is that you desire to be. So moving through that initial shock, as you said, affirmations, affirming the positive is what you would say helped you the most.
Absolutely, because you have a very large amount of negative energy that is fed into you after you have a loss like this. Everybody is coming to you, giving you condolences. Everybody is bringing you back to the concept of what happened. Everybody is, and they're doing it to try and be supportive and to try and be nice, but it is an overload of these negative emotions. And it's a much higher dose. And so if you're dosing and you think that your words are your ingredients for the life that you live, so you want your positive level of feed to equal or be greater than your negative level of feed. And so when grief happens and you're in it and you're already down here because it's weighted you down, and then all of your incoming words are also keeping you down, you have to do something to treat the problem. And that's by simply putting in the words you need to hear. You are loved.
What
you are alive.
Yes.
You have purpose. I mean, you have to get simple with it. And so seeing it when you get up and brush your hair, say the things that you would know they would say to you.
Oh, that's sweet.
Use the quotes that they would have given you if they were here. I like to tell people that, you know, because it's a huge thing. I use my daughter's journal. It has all sorts of quotes in the front of it that were her favorite quotes. She loved Rumi and Ernest Holmes. And so there's a lot, and Gandhi. So there was a lot for me to pick from. But if you're not privy to this, you can just look it up on Google. There's wonderful quotes that will inspire you. And all sorts of things that you can set on your phone that'll just propagate them at random hours of the day. And also, you know, you need to make sure that you're taking care of your health because you forget to eat.
Yes.
You don't take the time to shower and feed yourself because you're just so caught in the weight of the heaviness. And it just feels like such a burden to do anything for yourself. So pushing past that and feeding your soul the positivity that you need, because your happiness comes from within you.
Yes, our happiness is our responsibility, and knowing that too, that in that grief, sometimes we're just so off kilter that whatever worked in the past no longer works, and finding a new way. And as you say, if it's, using, words of the journal from your daughter, that's helpful. And I love what you said about people. There's so many times there's a lot of information coming in, but it may not be the most joyous. People are expressing themselves. And I want to say this, that it's okay to take a break from it all. It's
Oh, it
okay
is.
to say, no visitors today, no phone calls today. I need to be with me. I need to be with me to reconnect with whatever it is that I'm feeling. Sometimes in grief, you don't even know because you're so in that state of shock or numbness. It's okay to say no.
I actually had wonderful support in my community, in my spiritual community. I have a nurse in my community, Donna Davis, and she
Yeah.
came in and she said, listen, guys, she needs the space. You're going to have to go home. And that was so hard for many of them, but it was so necessary at the time. It was so necessary. And sometimes and you don't want to make anybody else feel bad.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to make anybody feel bad, but at the same aspect, you don't even have it within you to know that you need to tell them to go home so you can process.
You need somebody. You need a caretaker. And I think Donna is a very good caretaker. She's a nurse.
She's a beautiful caretaker. But that's also the purpose of having a death doula help you work through the process, because they remind you of these things. They remind you of self-care, and to make sure that you're being aware of your environment and what you're putting yourself through. Right. Because we tend to become that martyr. We tend to just kind of take care of everybody, take care of everybody, and then you forget to put yourself in that equation. By the end of the day, you're exhausted. And then right before you go to bed, you have that downtime where everything just floods you again. And so irregular sleep is a problem,
Everything's a problem. Yes. This is a suspended state of being. It's not normal at all. So with that knowing, don't expect for it to be, oh, why can't I go to sleep? Or why can't I do X, Y, and Z? Because you're not in your normal state. Right. I wanted to circle all the way back to something you said in the beginning around forgiveness. I'm in the middle of doing some grief recovery workshops and seminars and those kinds of things. And a lot of times when a person loses a loved one, there is that guilt that I wasn't there, I'm so sorry that I wasn't there for you at whatever time. And you talked about the forgiveness aspect. And I would, and you can agree or let me know what you think, is that if that is really a burden that you're carrying of guilt, try writing that letter of forgiveness to say, please forgive me for X, Y, and Z, or whatever it is that's weighing heavy on your heart. Write that letter. That can be very, very healing. Yeah. There was a thought, don't ask for an apology. Ask for forgiveness versus apologizing. Right. Ask for forgiveness, that can be more effective. And did you want to speak more to that? Because I just thought you really hit something when you talked about forgiveness.
Forgiveness is the key to working through the reconstructive phase of grief. It's essential, and it is multi-layered in itself. Forgiveness is not just self-forgiveness, but it's forgiveness for some people become angry and blameful that they left them too early. Some people become blameful of how law enforcement or somebody handled something, or how the coroner's office did something wrong, or how the you name it. There's just blame that gets put everywhere. It's almost like a splatter of paint, and it just kind of, And so what forgiveness does is forgiveness comes back with that paintbrush and fills in and makes an actual art piece out of it. And so it gives you the opportunity to see the other side and to recognize that the allness to what we're experiencing is not just individual to self. So, but rather it's a true realization of our spiritual immortality, as Ernest Holmes would like to say it, you know.
Our spiritual immortality, yes.
Right. It allows that part of the soul and spirit to evolve onto the next level of what are they to you now? They're not, she'll never not be my daughter. She's always my daughter.
Always your daughter, yes.
You know, I was always my daughter before here.
Yeah.
And so knowing that the great divine has this awesome picture, this source that we are all expressing from, has this greater picture. I know that I've been a part of it from the beginning, and I know that I'll be a part of it at the end because I am now.
Yes, yes.
And so, and that forgiveness allows you to understand that every petal on the plant, every leaf, every thorn is necessary.
Yes.
Nothing stays, nothing is consistent.
I'm glad that you can say that and say that with such conviction as well. And there was another thought I wanted to circle back to. You were talking about people staying stuck and asking those why questions and this, or why didn't that happen? And there's a reason that people get stuck, because they really are looking for that answer. They really want an answer to those questions, so that can lead to you becoming stuck in your grief. And I was going to say, it is okay to say, I need help with this. It is okay to reach out for a professional.
It's also okay to say, I have to let go and let source handle this for me. I can't do this. I need to release my attachment to it. And then I can be able to see objectively of how can I reform into this new self that I have to present as now. Because this is the ingredients I have now.
Yes.
So how do I stay in the gift of the present to let go and let God, you know, to be in forgiveness and be in that fluid moment and not hold on so tightly. It's like being in the garden and trying to water the plants, but instead you're crimping the hose saying, I really mix it with water.
I was just going to ask you also, in your Wiccan tradition. Oh, okay. We have another comment from Grand Design Artistry. No answer is an answer to. Oh,
that's right.
That is true. We got some profound people out there today.
Yes.
Truly.
And you know what? That no answer thing is sometimes the absolute key that is needed, because sometimes you're not in agreement with what's being said. You're not in alignment with what they're, you know, many people want to say, oh, well, you know, you should celebrate their life this way, or you should have a wake, you should have a funeral, you should not cremate, you should do casket, there's all this stuff. And everybody's trying to just put it out there and be open to, this is the way you can process this. And some people get very seized up and become like, oh, well, what do you mean you want to burn them, or you wanted this, or you wanted that? And no, sometimes just letting them speak.
And yes.
And simply just saying, thank you for sharing with me.
Yeah. Also, that's just what I was going to say. Also, be mindful of what information you're taking in.
Right. And be thankful.
Credence to, like, oh, that's not my belief. Thanks for that, but no. And I just want quickly, I can't believe we're almost at time here. But I just wanted to ask, did any philosophies from your Wiccan tradition that you take to here and now, or that helped put answer some of those questions, or help you, that brought you comfort, put it that way?
in the Wiccan practices, we have rites of passage rituals that we do. And those are very important to us. So having the death rites and doing death rites in a manner that honors, that allows that healing process. So like I said, we're not complete with that quite yet with my daughter.
Oh, yes.
I put my foot down and said, I'm going to take the Jewish year of mourning and then we'll do it at the end. I said, we're not in a hurry. She's where she's at and we're where we're at. And
yes, good for you.
So we're going to do that on the 1 year anniversary and honor her with a life celebration.
And when is that?
It'll be April 1st, 2023, this year.
I will hold you. I will mark my calendar.
And we will be here at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala doing that. And that's where she was known as the littlest guru. So
I just thank you so much. And I'll have you back. And so we can discuss further, because I wanted to ask you more about the death doula after the death and, you know, the roles that gets played there. But for right now, I feel like you're doulaing to yourself. You are a self-care doula right now. And with your
I actually have a doula as well that is also working with me. And so I wouldn't dare take this walk by myself.
Oh, that is good to hear. Please, please, please.
And I don't recommend anybody take this by themselves. I think that if you are alone, you should reach out. You need to have some form of companionship that can see you through some of these harder times, because a lot of times we may need psychiatric care to help us.
Need professional help as well.
Right. And so I definitely think we should all have, and there's churches everywhere that give free counsel and grief groups and everything, just so long as you have something that you can connect with.
That you're reaching out to, and that's providing you the comfort and support that you need.
Absolutely.
So gosh, Angel, I just want to say, I don't know where the time's gone, first of all, but I do appreciate you, and I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate our guests that did have questions. And Erin, thank you so much for your share. And I love sometimes no answer is an answer. I love that. So thank you. I just want to make an announcement. I offer a grief support group. It's once a month, and it's through Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. And that's Oakland Center for Spiritual Living.org. Joe, if you put that banner up, that would be great. And it's the first Sunday of the month, and it's CALM, Compassionate Attention to Loss Ministries. Well, that's Vista. I'll get to Vista in a minute. But right now, CALM. And CALM will happen on the first Sunday of February at 12:30 Pacific time. 12:30 Pacific time. That's Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, or oaklandcsl.org, and under events. And then Joe wants me to announce the Vista Conference, which is coming up in February. So the Vista Conference is February 20th through the 23rd. And I will be presenting on February 21st. I will be presenting a workshop on the healing and transformative powers of grief. And that's going to be on the 21st of February at 1:45. So lots of opportunities to learn more about appreciating grief or honoring grief in our lives, and a place to come for healing and sharing, and just our coming together in circle, in community, to share our stories of grief. Loss and grief is healing in itself. And does Ocala Center for Spiritual Living offer a support group?
They do not actually have that. We do have a private death doula, and like I said, I'm a death doula as well. But I will get with you, because I think this is something we need to link in on, and I think that would be a beautiful expansion for our center. Our center is a very cutting edge on a new model of things, and I think that it would be a beautiful thing, especially having Eastern all the way over from sea to shining sea. It'd be beautiful.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you again, Angel, in my just holding you and your family in the highest light with love during this time of grieving and mourning. And know that you are appreciated and that you are loved. You are loved.
Well, thank you for being here and walking me through this portion, because this was an amazing moment and a beginning of a very long friendship.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm going to hold you to it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And again, I'm Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. I am a grief coach and available for grief coaching. And so is Angel. Angel is a life coach. So we're both available. Reach out. Don't do this walk alone. So thank you. And I'll see you next time. Thank you. Ciao.
New Thought Radio, music from all your favorite New Thought artists. From Jamie Lula, Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, Ricky Byers, Daniel Nahmod, Eddie Watkins Jr., and many, many more. 24/7 New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring.